What's up, you guys? Welcome to GRYD, the Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Brock Eisman, sports psychologist, outdoorsman, and the founder of Off the Grid Therapy. This podcast is built for the hardworking men and women who are looking to prioritize their mental, physical, and spiritual health so they can be the best for their family, friends, coworkers, and community. We're here to talk mental health, performance, psychology, outdoors, sports, and the pursuit of something bigger than ourselves. Let's get after it. Enjoy the show.
Trying to fight a war, but I lose myself. What is living for if I burn in hell?
Welcome back, you guys. This is Q&A. And for Q&A, questions and answers. Yesterday on Off the Grid Therapy social and on my personal, I threw it out there for you guys to ask questions. When these kind of get going along, we'll get a lot more questions, but we literally just asked questions yesterday and we're answering them today. So for those who have never done a Q&A or heard of a Q&A, you guys can send the questions in and I'm just going to reply to them and try and keep them along the lines of the same family that GRYD is a part of. So anything mental, performance, psychology, outdoors, that's kind of the main frame. Business, like those kind of things, absolutely. If you guys have questions, throw them in there. But yeah, so today we're going to answer 4 questions, and that's kind of how these things go. So first question that we got is from Andy, and Andy asked, how do you handle the mental side of fear, failure, and risk? Asking from like a business perspective. Okay, so the first thing, fear, failure, and risk. Typically, the first thing I'll ask myself, I'll break these things down and what is fear? Like that's my first question to myself. And then I'll ask what is failure, what is risk? But they all kind of intertwine. Like those are all, to me, along the same lines. So the first thing I would ask myself, what is fear? Fear, to find out what I think about fear, I want to know the opposite to fear. So that's how I like to define things as well. So first I'm defining fear, understanding the opposite to fear is how I define things. So what is the opposite to fear? A lot of people will say it's courage. A lot of people will say that it's faith. Like I've heard faith. I love the idea of faith. We had a guy around the circle one time on one of the trips say faith, like my faith in a higher power. And I was like, wow, that's actually really good. But no. So the opposite to fear, just to break it down and answer the question quickly, opposite to fear is knowledge. So if I was to know, I would be without fear. None of us know, right? None of us have foreknowledge. We can't know everything. In fact, I can't know what's going to happen in 5 seconds, right? What I can do is understand that in order to gain knowledge, I have to do something, right? I have to go out and figure out what am I actually fearing, or what is this thing that I'm afraid of, and then go and do it. And there's different approaches to that. Like we could do them in small bites. We could go and do like a big thing that, say, the thing that I'm trying to kind of get here or get across is when I break down fear, it's just simply me trying to figure out what I don't know and then going and finding out. The example that I always use for fear, because this one just puts it very plainly. If I'm standing on a cliff and I'm looking down at water, the fear is not that I'm standing on the cliff. It's what's going to happen when I jump in the water. So if I jump in the water, do I know if I'm going to break my neck? Do I know if it's going to feel good? Do I know if it's shallow, if it's deep, if it's like, I just don't know. So if I'm afraid of that, the way that I find out is by doing it. And maybe the way that I find out is by jumping 5 feet off of that cliff into water. Maybe the way I find out is swimming in the water before to go and check the depth and see what is going on there, which is probably smart. But you get what I'm saying? So you go from 5 feet to 10 feet to 20 feet to 40 feet to 60 feet. There's there's two methodologies here. Like you could go those small bites, right? Or you could go off the 60-foot one and find out really quickly. You could also get really hurt. There's a lot of risk there. So for the fear, that's kind of how I'm breaking that down. When it comes to failure to me, and this is actually something that, like with my clients, that journal that we just released, I have a portion in there at the bottom, and you'll see it says reflections/lessons. Failure to me, the word has switched in my head to what lesson have I just learned? If I immediately think I perceive something as failure, it's like, okay, what lesson did I just learn? So simply switch the word in your head from this failure to this lesson. Because to me, and plenty of people think this, and it really has shown, and I've honestly probably learned it from our really high level athletes, and then really high level functioning people that I've met in this community. But failure is simply when you quit. It's when you give up. It's when you stop trying, right? So we do have failures in our life, but is the thing that you're perceiving as failure right now, is it actually a failure? It could just be a lesson, and just keep going at it and keep figuring out, okay, well, I did it wrong this way, so I'm going to go figure out how to do it right. I did it wrong that way. Do it 100 times before you figure out how to do it right, But yeah, that's the failure, especially with business. Like business is, there's so many people that are like, I got this figured out. I know how to do this. Like, if there's one thing that you can figure out with successful business people that I am learning, is to take something like perceived failure, like fear, like taking risks, and actually going out and doing them. Learn how to do them well, because you talk to any business person and they've been at the bottom many times, so that's what I would say about the failure portion. And then the risk, like I said, we simply need risk to do anything in life. I see risk as like stress. I really got to understand that I like stress. I need stress in order to perform in everything that I do. So hopefully that answers your question, Andy. I appreciate it. But yeah, we need to view all of these things from a neutral perspective. And that's ultimately what's going to help our performance. So get out there and do whatever you're saying this from a business perspective. So whatever business thing you're going through, go out and do it, and do it a lot. Figure out how to do it right. So yeah, the second question. Okay, so number 2, this one is coming from Sean. And I don't know if it, like in the future, I'm going to figure this out and make this Q&A thing better each time, but I'm just going to say the first names. And then if I don't have your first name, like if it was from social media, I'm just going to say your handle. Maybe not the full handle, but yeah, you guys could actually let me know if I should keep on doing that. Okay, question number 2. What's one mental performance concept you wish everyone actually understood? Can you explain how to apply it? Thanks. Okay. So, first episode, second episode of this podcast when it was called Mindset Sessions, those are probably the 2 that I would think of. Neutral thinking or stress. I kind of just mentioned stress in the last question. I love stress. Stress is a very important topic, especially for performance. But let's bring it back to like kind of the foundation, the philosophy that I have, and that is neutral thinking. Understand that neutral thinking, it's taking the positive and the negative to find out truth. Okay. You can't find truth if you're just thinking with your emotions. You also can't find truth if you're just thinking too logically. You're going to have a very low ceiling, what I call it, when you think too logically, too realistic, because you're not leaving any of those emotions in there to kind of push you and get you to places that you didn't even understand that you could get to. And then on the flip side, like when you're too emotional, and I have athletes in the past, like thinking of one guy specifically, he was a really good guy. He played baseball, really good athlete in the pros, had one way of thinking of how he would pitch. And it was just this like maximum level of emotion. As he got a little older, that emotion eventually had to adjust and change because he wasn't doing things, his physical body wasn't doing things that kind of matched his emotions. So he had to completely change that. And that's kind of what we work through. So you can't be one or the other. You have to learn how to blend both. And that's what I call neutral thinking. Blending the emotions and the feelings, but then also being super logical and knowing the facts to figure out truth. You have to have both. You can't just have one or the other. And that's what neutral thinking is. So I would say neutral thinking. How to apply it, how I simply have my clients apply it is typically, this is kind of super easy to do. So stick with me. If you're super intentional about it, it'll work really well. But what I have people do is I have them for those first 7 days after we have a session, they'll track something like verbalizing negativity. And that verbalizing of those negative words that they speak, and I'm speaking verbally because that affects you way more than just your thoughts, because it's a thought and then it comes out and then it kind of becomes true. So when we track our negativity verbally, like I walk outside, and why do we do this as human beings? Someone tell me. When we walk outside and we go, it's hot or it's cold or it's raining, and it's like a negative thing to say that, because it's usually not just it's hot outside or it's cold outside. It's usually like, God, it's cold outside, or it's so hot, or it's raining. Just those sentences by themselves are great, but the emotions that are attached to them, not great. So that would be like one thing that I would track. Like, oh, dude, I woke up and I walked outside and I was like, I can't believe how cold it is. This sucks. Not saying that you have to even say the words "this sucks," but how you said it was very important. So track your negativity, and you'll have a tally. And I have clients who will be like 63, 67, 43, like throughout the week. Every single night they'll write down this number, and usually by day 7 it's gone down substantially, most of the time, like cut in half. And this is people being super intentional about it. If you're not intentional about this, like, this exercise doesn't work. But if you are super intentional about it, you notice that your performance goes up substantially. And I don't want to confuse this with, oh, well, that's like a positive thinking technique. No, more so, it's a neutral thinking technique that we confuse with positivity. I'm not asking you every single time you have a negative thought to implement it's hot outside, and I actually don't like that, so I'm going to switch it to, oh, I love the heat. Instead of lying to yourself, because we can't lie to ourselves. We're constantly lying to every part of our being. Our mind is just like so good at doing that. So don't do that anymore, especially with performance. I want you to tell the truth. So if the truth is that it's hot, be like, wow, it's hot, right? Just leave it at that. It is hot. That is neutral. That is a fact, right? My emotions to it are not like heightened, like, oh, I can't believe it's hot. It's more so just that I'm simply saying what I'm feeling and then thinking logically, it is hot outside. Okay, great. That's a fact. Cool. What am I going to do about it? Like, are you going to change your day? Like, no. Like, just let it be. Like, you can't control the weather. So why are you thinking that you can throw like emotions into it? So that's kind of what I have to say about that. With the application piece, like, if you have more questions about that, you can absolutely hit me up. Just that little one right there, you'll get to 7 days. You'll notice that your performance is better if you do it intentionally, and then you'll probably carry it on for another week. And then after those 2 weeks, you'll have a mark where you're just like, okay, well, I just need to be on top of my negativity. Why am I not performing well? It probably has something to do with that. And you'll start picking up too, like, how negative people speak, and just naturally, like, even when you see them. So that's a fun one. I hope that answers your question. Your name, what was that? Sean. Thank you, Sean. Okay. Question number 3. If you've ever taken your foot off the gas, how'd you get back to being disciplined? All right. And this is Rumham. That's your Instagram name. First, like, I think that this is totally normal. And let me repeat the question. If you've ever taken your foot off the gas, how'd you get back to being disciplined? This is normal, like totally normal. of the athletes that I do have, of the clients that I've worked with, I think that acknowledging and understanding that these guys go through this, like the Olympic athletes, the professional athletes, the guys who do supercross, like they all go through this, trying to get back to being disciplined, because it's so easy to just get off track. It's also something really important to note here is that if you are being ultra disciplined, I want you to understand why it is important. Like if you're making disciplined just like looking around you and being like, oh, that guy's disciplined, I want to be like him. No, it's got to be more so internal for you. Like, why is it important to you to be disciplined? I would try and figure that out first, kind of the understanding your why portion. But yeah, so the short answer, I would say think, do. That's just taking my thoughts, turning them into an action. How do I get to be back to being more disciplined? Typically, whenever that thought pops into your head, act on it. So I don't know what examples you're thinking of, but more so, if I am going to want to be more intentional and present with my family, if that's a thought, I'm going to act on it. So I'm going to specifically set up a time to where I'm going to be completely off my phone, completely off socials, completely off Meta, like just get off of it. And I'm going to be more intentional about it and write a time, and then a time when I pick back up on that so I can be more intentional and present with my family and my children. That's kind of an example that I have in my own life. But think and do. So you take a thought, turn it into an action. The best way that you can repeat this discipline portion and consistency is taking a thought and acting on it. I think, therefore I do. I don't think about it and then think about it and then think about it and then do it, because performance-wise, that's not good. I think, therefore I do. It's that simple. Discipline is not this like insanely crazy thing. It doesn't have to be some gnarly thing that you have to wake up at 3:30 every morning and go on a 100-mile run and be like, I'm going to be like that, you know? It's more so, I'm just going to take something that I know that I can do, that's realistic, that is neutral, and I can be like, I'm going to think about that one thing and I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to think about another thing and then I'm going to do it. And keep it simple. Just do 3 things a day. 3 things a day that you want to be more disciplined on. Think about it, then do it. Give yourself a realistic process, because that process is really important. So think about it, do it. Think, do. Thought to action. Okay. But yeah. Thank you, Rumham. Reiterating that one more time. How to be more disciplined. Think, do. Because it is. At the end of the day, it's you versus you. That's really important. It's you versus you. Your thought, your action. Just go and do whatever you're thinking about. Okay. Question number 4. This is the last question. Can you name a specific event that gave you clarity or insight knowing that this was your calling? So I'm assuming that that's to me. And specific event that gave you clarity and insight knowing this was your calling. My sister, when I was in high school, she died at 19. And that was for sure like the moment where I was like, okay, I just want to serve people. I want to help people, because what I'm going through absolutely sucks. And I grew up in a family, for those who don't know, like my sister, she died from epilepsy. She had a seizure. And I'll just go into it real quick. When you fall down and you have a seizure, she had grand mal. If you ever heard of a grand mal, when you have a grand mal, you fall, and for up to 3, 4, or 5 minutes, sometimes, you shake and you tense up and everything, like it's really hard to breathe. And then when you come out of it, you can't really move. And what happened was she fell in between her bed. She was going to go for a run. Sister was a stud athlete too, but she was going to go for a run, and she fell in between her bed and her desk in her bedroom, tying her shoes to go for a run. And she fell in between and basically just blocked off any way of being able to have her breathe. And it was absolutely terrible to go through. And that specific event probably gave me a lot of clarity on life and on living and what's important and all the things that I should be focusing on and worrying about. I'd also say in a way, this all kind of shifted kind of what my view on God was. I was extremely angry. Didn't understand why any of this had to happen to me, myself, my brother, our family, her friends, my friends. Like I didn't get it. And so that led me down a path of trying to figure it out, and it took me a while to figure it out. And once I really got down to the end of it, it really was my relationship with God. And I think that's the only way that I can get through this life, is to have a relationship with him. And yeah, I get asked all the time too, like why do good people have to die? And that's something that we can talk about on the trip. And I actually love that topic, and I've talked about that a lot with people. But yeah, so answering your question, that's probably what gave me clarity. And then just naturally understanding that my identity had nothing to do with like one specific thing, like playing a sport, or going and making super success or having success in all the things that I did. It's more so just that I am enough doing this, whatever it is, in front of me, because that's ultimately like my path that God is leading me down. And it just so happens to be wanting to help and to serve others. So that includes like my family, that includes my wife, that includes my son, that includes my friends, my parents, like everyone. I really want to be known that I love people well, and that I care about them. So that's how GRYD and Off the Grid and everything to do with the sports psychology and working with people kind of is rooted. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. That was Ray. Thank you, Ray. So yeah, way to get deep on the last question. Yeah, I don't really tell that story often. So this is actually kind of a big deal, and it feels really good to talk about it. And that's another one of those things where it's like vulnerability is a really, really good thing, with the right people at the right time. And I am taking a step out here to just put this on the internet, but I'm hoping that the right people hear it, even if just one person hears it. So yeah, that was Q&A. We'll see you next time. If this added any value to your life, please hit the follow, subscribe, leave a quick review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. If you're looking for one-on-ones with me, the link is in the show notes, or check out one of the upcoming trips at Off the Grid Therapy. It's also in the show notes. Keep showing up, keep finding your why, and I'll see you on the next one.